Hello again, I'm James Dempsey. So here we are flying through the 5 points of protection. The next point, number 4, is firewalls, a very critical component for your business security. Now firewalls are not well understood, even by many IT professionals, yet they play a vital role in protecting your organization. Take a look at this graphic, and up at the top here we have the internet, the cloud. And down at the bottom we have all of your computers, your file servers, everything that may need to be physically connected to the internet. Running from every single one of these devices is a piece of copper cabling, unless you have a wireless network, in which case it works the same way without the copper. But for all intents and purposes, and for this discussion, there's a piece of copper that comes up and attaches to one central device, a switch, where everything connects so they can talk to each other. From there is one cable, that goes from your switch on out through the devices to connect you to the internet. Right there, if we cut that trunk and we put a protective device, that's the firewall. What a perfect place to monitor everything, because everything coming and going from the public internet has to pass through that connection point. Now there's a difference between a home class firewall and a business class firewall. Here we see our trusted business resources, key resources that people in the outside world, people outside of my company, may need to have access to. They're in the cruel, hard world, the internet. And between me and them is my firewall. Now I want you to think of the internet as a pipe coming into my business from the public world, the public internet. And inside of this pipe are a whole bunch of tiny little straw-sized pipes. Now in the IT world, everything is labeled and is very meticulous. So every single one of these straws is actually numbered. And again, because it's so meticulous, I can count on a certain amount of consistency. It doesn't matter whether I have a Comcast connection, or a DSL connection, or a satellite connection, or a Clearwire connection, the numbers of the straws are always the same. If data is coming into my business through the straw number 25, we actually call them ports in the computer world. If data is coming in over port 25, that is email traffic, because port 25 is always email traffic. If it's coming in on port number 80, that's web traffic. Now if I have a small business, I may not be hosting anything. And home class firewalls are very good at locking the doors, at preventing anything from coming in on those ports. The problem occurs if I do need something to come in on one of those ports. Let's say that I do have an email file server for my business. I have to allow inbound traffic on port number 25. So here I have an email, it's coming into the business, it makes its way and it hits the firewall, and the firewall says, "Where are you going to?" "Well, I'm going to an email file server." "Well then, surely you are a safe, secure, legitimate message." Now even this is a bit of a joke, because a home class firewall doesn't ask any questions whatsoever. It doesn't have the intellect to be able to ask any questions. The door is wide open and the email can actually just fly right through. First door to the right, and the email makes its way on through to the file server itself. Now that's one of the tricks. There's no protection on the home class firewall at all. It's up to the email file server to check to make sure it's legitimate traffic and that it's not email packets that have been corrupted, attempting to trick the email file server into doing something that it really shouldn't do. Let's see how this plays out if it's a business class firewall, a layer 7 firewall. Same trusted network resources, same cruel hard world. Even the device looks the same. The cables look like they're attached the same. Visually you can't see much, but there's a difference. When the email comes in and it touches that firewall, the firewall can stop it because it's capable of looking at the independent data packets coming over the wire. Just because it's coming over port 25 does not mean that it's email. Let's check. And are the data packets arranged correctly, or are they malformed to try and trick the server? What's actually in the data coming through? It's a security appliance, that's what it does. Where to? To an email server. Okay, I need a name, I need a DNA sample, I need all kinds of things. These things are very, very thorough. Wait, is that an attachment? If I, as a computer guy, see an email attachment with a file extension of .com, .exe, that always means something bad. Now most people understand file attachments along the lines of, if you see a DOC file, it's a Microsoft Word document. If you see an XLS file, it's a Microsoft Excel document, a PDF, an Adobe PDF document. COM files, and executable files, batch files, DLLs, none of these attachment types, and there's a substantial list, are appropriate as email attachments. A Layer 7 firewall is capable of not just looking at the email, but all of the data in the stream. And if it sees an attachment that's not appropriate, it'll actually strip it out. It'll send the email on to the users, adding its own attachment saying we removed malicious content from the email. Be warned, find out why somebody's sending you this inappropriate content. The point is that the security appliance is protecting your users from inappropriate content. It doesn't even make it to your file server. Gee, okay, don't you trust me? Soon, please step behind the privacy screen and hand me those latex gloves. It's very thorough. So boiling things down, there's really three major classes of firewalls. This is a little oversimplified, but it works for this scenario. Which one do you need? A simple home class firewall can run between $80 and $200. Now, many ISPs will include firewall capabilities when you purchase your internet connection. Not all of them. Definitely ask. If they don't, you need to acquire a firewall of some sort in order to keep yourself safe. If you're not hosting anything internally on your file servers, or if you don't have servers to host any information, the home class firewall may be perfect. Keep it simple, keep it inexpensive. A business class firewall has the ability to take things to a whole nother level of protection. It's also more expensive. The firewall itself is capable of the Layer 7 protection that we talked about, the ability to see the data that's coming through the channel. Oftentimes, they're also capable of running additional software programs to give you additional capabilities. In an earlier video, I told you that real-time antivirus scanning is tricky, and that oftentimes the vendors have to turn down the security dial to balance the performance of your computer with the level of protection they provide. At the firewall level, you can also run antivirus software, and they're not concerned about how fast your computer is going because it isn't being processed on your computer. It's being processed on the appliance. They can turn that dial up as high as they can to offer additional protection. Now, if I have antivirus software on my firewall, does that mean I don't have to have antivirus on my workstation? Absolutely not. You have to have both. Multiple layers of protection. The methodologies that the antivirus company are going to use to look for malicious activity are completely different than the methodologies a firewall manufacturer is going to use to look for inappropriate activity. Using both increases your protection significantly. Another advantage to a business class firewall is oftentimes you can deploy web blocking capabilities. Now, I heard this story all of the time. Oh, we just have a small business. It's just me and my brother-in-law and that's my son over there. None of us are going to go into any bad websites. What does that mean, bad websites? Remember when we talked about social engineering? It's about hackers tricking you into going places without you realizing where you're going. Web blockers can help to protect you from yourself, keeping you from getting to websites that have malicious content, websites that have been identified in the community already as being inappropriate places to go, and stopping you from getting there if you do get tricked into clicking that hyperlink in that piece of spam. Social engineering is a powerful thing. Corporate class firewalls are larger versions of the business class firewalls. If you have multiple offices and need an encrypted connection from one city to another to share data, or if you have lots of users, the corporate class firewall is probably what you need to look at. The firewall is protecting you from the internet. As with email, one of the best things that you can do is restrict access. There's multiple ways you can restrict web access, some of them using a firewall, some using some other techniques. I have one particular customer who has a team of employees who processes insurance claims all day long. This is 6 people on the internet 8 hours a day, because all of the insurance work is done on the internet. At that particular site, we've restricted them so that they can only get to those 6 websites. They're on the internet all day long, but the only places they can go are the business appropriate sites. They can't check their webmail. They can't go to MySpace or Facebook. They can't get to any of these things. That's a very safe method of doing things. But it doesn't work for all work environments. You can also break your users up into key groups. Perhaps the night shift working in the warehouse has very restricted internet access and can only get to key designated locations. But the purchasing group has pretty much full access because of all of the web-based research that they do, as does the management team, or any number of combinations. You can break your people up into groups based upon their login names and their passwords to determine what groups can get access to where. Just like with email, if you can take and eliminate internet access for 20% of your employees because they don't really need it, you lower your attack profile by 20% just like that. And they didn't need it in the first place. In the next video, we'll cover the 5th of the 5 points of protection to keep you safe from malware. Thanks for watching.